Good afternoon and welcome to Education Connections. I am Peter Wuenschel, Executive Director of Communities and Schools Bay Area, and I'm the Chair of the Education Division of the Clear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce. The mission of the Clear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce is to be champions for business success and quality of life in our community. And we believe the foundation of business success and quality of life begins with the region's educational system, which includes pre-K through the highest professional degrees. Education Connections is a monthly webinar hosted by the Clear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce and will showcase the people who lead our educational institutions. We will ask these leaders to share issues facing our educational institutions now and in the future. Today, I have with me from San Jacinto College, Teri Crawford, Vice Chancellor, External Relations, and Executive Director of San Jacinto College Foundation. Welcome, Teri.
Hi, thank you, Peter. It's just so good to be here with everyone, and thanks for having me.
I appreciate you taking the time. I'd like you to begin with just telling us something about who you are, what your positions are with San Jacinto, and what those positions entail.
Well, thank you. So as you mentioned, I'm the Vice Chancellor for External Relations. That's marketing, public relations, government affairs, all of that. And then also, as of September 1st, we had a retirement of our Executive Director of the Foundation. And so now I hold that position as Executive Director. I've been with San Jacinto College for 15 years. I've been in various positions, all of them in the external relations area of what I've mentioned before. Prior to San Jacinto College, I worked at Texas A&M, University of Galveston, Giga-Maggies, and worked at their maritime campus down in Galveston, but was also in the same type of role in external relations, fundraising, advancement, that sort of thing. My background is education. I was a Spanish teacher in a high school and also have communications background, so writing, photography, that sort of thing. I live in League City. I'm married to a very wonderful man, Kevin Crawford, and very fortunate to have two very beautiful stepdaughters. Claire is up at Texas A&M University. She will be graduating in December with a degree in industrial engineering with a double minor in business and project management. If anybody has a job opening next December, she's going to be looking. And then our youngest is a senior at Clear Creek High School, and we will be celebrating her graduation from high school on May 30th.
That's awesome. Thank you, Teri. And that's why we connect. You know, if anyone out there has a job, this is all about Education Connection.
Sorry for that little plug.
No, that's all right. That's why we're here. So, Teri, you're with San Jacinto College, and I want to start there. I know we've gone through a really different year, if not year and a half. I'd like you to just really talk about where we've landed after the pandemic. What's going on for the summer? What's going on for the fall with San Jac? And you can, if you want to talk a little bit about how the pandemic has affected the college, but more importantly, you know, how are we moving forward in the future?
Well, thank you for that softball question. So San Jacinto College, just like every other institution of higher education, has had to plan and pivot so many times that you lose track of how many plans you created and how many you actually implemented. I will tell you, we are very excited for the first time since the pandemic. We are actually going to have an in-person commencement, socially distanced, down at NRG Park. We have two different ceremonies that we'll be running and have about 2,000 students who signed up and just are excited to be there in person and celebrate what they have been through, and we can't wait to celebrate that with them. We have been fully online since last May. We have had a lot of our career and technical education courses doing what we call hands-on hybrid. In that situation, they do their lab portion, like for an automotive technician. It's hard to have that degree virtually. At some point, you have to touch the car. And so we would have them come in to do that part on a rotating basis, and then their classwork they would do online. However, this summer, we're changing our modalities a little bit. We're offering more face-to-face classes. About 50% of our instructional modality will be face-to-face. The summer, what we're seeing, though, is that students are still preferring a little bit that online, still not quite ready to come back. Technical programs will still be that hybrid that I talked about. And then for fall, we have actually really started ramping up what we're doing as the vaccination is available. We're still keeping a lot of our protocols in place for now. We're reassessing as we see what's going on in Harris County, that sort of thing. But as of this fall, we are planning that about 60% of our courses would be face-to-face, 40% online, and then with the technical programs, it'll probably be a mix, but most of them will be face-to-face. And what we are seeing for the fall is that students are opting for the face-to-face. They're ready to be back in the classroom. So that's kind of where we are. With federal stimulus dollars, I will let you know that we have now distributed almost $5.6 million directly to students. That federal stimulus funding went to about 6,400 students. We still have funding, and as you probably all saw, there was more funding that was passed recently, and half of that will have to go directly to students. So we are doing that just to help students through. We are going to use some of the institutional dollars that we have been received to really help students. So in our dual credit programs, early college, high schools, even our regular population, we know they got thrown into online and not everyone was prepared for that or had the equipment for that. They stuck with it, they stuck through it, but there were some who failed, of course. So with some of our stimulus dollars, we're kind of giving an opportunity for all of those students, whether a high school student attending college courses or a college student attending college courses. Either way, through the summer of 2021 and into fall of 2021, we're giving those students an option to retake the course, and the college will pay for that retake with federal stimulus dollars. So those are some things we've been doing. Just as always, we've got protocols in place, and we have been working with Harris County very closely. We have been testing sites. We are now vaccination site. And so we have Harris County offering those services to the communities that we serve. So I think that's kind of an overview of what we're doing with COVID.
Thank you so much. I've been in this community for over 25 years, and I've seen San Jacinto really step up, and I do admire you and several of the other educational institutions. This has been a really, really hard year, and I know there's a lot of criticism out there, but thank you for what you're doing and for what you're continuing to do, because the students were impacted having to go to a different modality of learning, and you're now saying, okay, let's catch you all up. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've also, like I mentioned, I've seen the growth of San Jacinto College, and there's different campuses popping up. You have different initiatives going on. So if you'll talk a little bit about, one of the newest campuses you have, as well as some of the work you're doing in the Clear Lake area.
Oh, sure. So we did open up a new campus. So on the very northern edge of our taxing district, community colleges have an area of folks who pay taxes to the college, and then you have a service area where you serve them, but they don't pay taxes to the college. But on the very far north part, up near Lake Houston, there was a developer who came in and is developing what they're calling Generation Park. And Generation Park is kind of a mixed-use development. It's got everything from Fortune 500 companies to residential living. And so it's very much a mixed use. And in there, they wanted to have some education center. And so we did. We purchased some property at Generation Park, and we did build a building there. And it's a 50,000 square foot building, and we opened it up in fall of 2020. Did not intend to be in the midst of a worldwide or global pandemic when we opened that building. but it is up there. It is staffed. We are hoping that this summer and fall we will actually welcome our first students on that campus. That campus will be much more focused in this short-term period as we open that building. It's an academic building that we opened. So it'll be for students who are taking more general education courses. Students call them the basics. And then they intend to transfer to a four-year university. So that's Generation Park. We do have plans down the road. There are some coming into Generation Park. There's a dark warehouse coming in, so a lot of AI technology. You're right there near Bush Intercontinental Airport, and so there's a lot of logistics companies up in that area. And we're thinking that that's probably the direction that we'll go with that campus when we move into workforce training programs. Our model here at San Jacinto College is to go to businesses first, find out what they need, and then build curriculum and programs, degrees, certificates around that. We did that with our maritime campus, kind of out in the LaPorte area. We just built a building, our Center for Petrochemical Energy and Technology, same thing. You put together the advisory board first, you find out what they need, what do they need in the facility. And we have just been doing that in a partnership with the City of Houston's airport system and Ellington Spaceport. Sally K. James, who a lot of you, Dr. James, a lot of you know, has been working very diligently. She's had an advisory group working for almost 2 years now. We are co-located at that facility with Intuitive Machines. Boeing is there with us, Lockheed is there with us, and so we're listening. We're listening, and that group has already identified some technician type programs that they need in the aerospace workforce area. And so we do have our first 4 certificates that we are working already in that space. There's still some renovation going on at that space. And if you've been out to the spaceport, if you haven't lately, you need to go check it out. They're doing a whole lot of work. City of Houston and the Houston Airport System has roads going in. There's actually street signs up now. It's really bizarre how much it's changed. But that location will specifically service our aerospace partners, and then through the leadership of Dr. James to kind of help us with some of that startup funding. She did submit a federal grant to the Department of Commerce. It's called an EDA grant, or Executive Economic Development Grant. And so we were just awarded a $1 million EDA grant, and she's using that to really start ramping that up. What equipment do we need? What other things do we need to do to that facility? So that's kind of our big news going on in the Clear Lake area of really working on that. The Clear Lake Chamber really assisted San Jacinto College a lot to build facilities in a location. You need it to be in your taxing district, because the maintenance and operations of our facilities come from taxpayer generated funds. That's how we build buildings. Those are the bonds that we pass. And so we did work with the City of Houston and had support from the Clear Lake Chamber to annex. Just Ellington Spaceport itself is now in the San Jacinto College taxing district. Part of it was, part of it wasn't. So now it all is. So
that's fantastic. There's 2 things that I've really admired about San Jacinto College is, and you just mentioned that the work that you do with businesses, you really collaborate with businesses, and you're about feeding the workforce. The other thing is the pipeline that you help create for K through 12 to get into college. And I appreciate you just talking about Sally Kay. I met her about 20 years ago, and I saw the maritime facility pop up, the Petrochem, because of that work. So I applaud you. I think it's tremendous for this area to have a college like yours to do all this great work. So the other piece that I really admire, because I work with more with the K through 12, although I also am an adjunct professor. What is some of the work that you're doing with high school students and feeding them into the college system?
Sure. So our work in dual credit and early college high schools, we're working very robustly interestingly, we're going to have our largest graduating class of early college high school at our commencement this Saturday, day after tomorrow. We will have 500 high school students who are graduating from college before their high school commencement takes place. So it's really growing in what we're doing in dual credit in our early college high schools. The other thing that we started doing, we had a donor who came forward who said that he would like to see a promise program begin at San Jacinto College. And so we took that funding, we looked at some best practices across the country of that. And so we had the donor help us select the 3 high schools. They are high schools where students tend to be a little bit lower income. It is, we've created, it's a scholarship program, and it's a full scholarship program. So it pays for the students' tuition, it pays for their course materials, which I don't know how many of you know that San Jacinto College is very, very engaged in what we call open educational resources. So our faculty are putting together resources that are either no cost to the student, or they're at very low cost, like no more than $50 for course materials. And then we have what we call like our first day program. So if a student will purchase course materials on the first day, they get a pretty significant discount. I think it's 40% off of their course materials. So we do everything we can to keep costs low for the students. This Promise program is really geared for high school seniors. They have to basically sign a form saying that they're making a commitment. It's a contract that they really want to do this, that they're going to start, they're going to complete. These high school seniors do have to to qualify for the Promise program, you have to be a full-time student, which is 12 credit hours. And then the scholarship runs for 3 years. So it's all everything paid for, tuition. San Jacinto College also has what's called a simplified tuition, and I'm training myself to not say tuition and fees. We no longer charge fees. It's one cost, it's just tuition. And so all of that is kind of rolled in. What we've seen, our first cohort, we had COVID hit us right as we were starting that too. Our first cohort came in fall 2020. And so we went from almost 1,000 students who were going to take advantage of it to about 500. And with those 500 students from the 3 high schools are Dobie High School, Sam Rayburn High School, and South Houston High School. And so those 500 students started in the fall. About 80% of them have persisted into the spring semester. Their grades are doing good. They're continuing. We've done a whole lot to wrap around services for students. We did hire some folks to specifically work with this cohort because it is a little bit different, and making sure we just have touch points with these students, that we're keeping them on track, that we're keeping them going. So we weren't sure. As I had mentioned, I started with the foundation on September 1st. We were heavy into COVID. The only way to pay for this kind of thing is through the generous support of donors who give specifically for this purpose. And we kind of hit a lull, and so we weren't sure we were going to be able to, we knew we had enough money to get that first cohort through, and we just had a donor come through who's going to allow us to start a second cohort. It'll still be from those same 3 high schools, just because that's, again, it's so dependent on funding. So that's kind of what we're doing around that. And that's what we're doing a lot with our high school partnerships. Really appreciate Clear Creek ISD and the partnership we have with them, and the Clear Horizons Early College High School. It's, I think, our longest standing early college high school, and co-located with us on our South Campus. So really enjoying that. And let me just do a real quick plug. San Jacinto College is about to celebrate its 60th anniversary. So September 2021, we'll kick off our completing 60 years of serving in this community.
Congratulations on that. And thank you for talking about the connection that you make with the high school. Clear Horizons has been, I think, a model that I'm very familiar with, but I think it's a model for the country about how we need to work on education. And the Promise cohort, you talked about that, and I know you now have a new position. You are a Vice Chancellor of External Relations, but also you are the Executive Director of the San Jacinto College, which helps support the Promise cohort. I'd like to, as we're concluding this, really talk about what the foundation is and what your new responsibilities are. I know you started that in September, and have gone through COVID with that. But will you talk a little bit about that, and then we'll begin closing things down. But I have one final thing that actually wasn't on our agenda. Talk a tiny bit about the legislative session. I know that's another hour discussion, but can we talk about the foundation, and then we'll kind of close on the legislative session?
Oh, sure. So the foundation is celebrating its 25th anniversary. And I don't know how many of you know that our chancellor, Brenda Hellier, started her tenure with San Jacinto College as a volunteer, as a board member of the San Jacinto College Foundation. And so it's been around for a long time, and we have an amazing chancellor because of that foundation. So really glad. So the mission of the foundation really is to raise funds and serve the college. So we do that a lot through raising funds for scholarships for students. So the foundation provides, it's right around $700,000 a year to directly to students for scholarships. A lot of those scholarships, some of them are more like the Promise, where they are very encompassing of what they have. But the majority of them are typically for like around $1,000 or $500 a semester. Just so that you know, with our tuition being $78, and then again, no fees, that's the cost. So most students who are getting $500 are really, that is paying their tuition. So that's why that is there. We also provide funding to faculty or staff. What we call these student success initiatives. So they're kind of grants. And I know the Clear Creek Education Foundation does something similar for faculty who really want to try new things or see if there's another way that we can do it. And so these student success initiatives, the faculty submit a proposal. It goes through a committee. The foundation board of directors actually looks at those. And just a real quick example that I just saw on one that just came through with COVID in the music department here, all of the ensembles, how do you get together and work as an ensemble? And so the faculty requested a student success initiative to purchase some specific software that allows students to be in different locations by themselves, but still work together as an ensemble and learn all the things you have to learn so that your voice isn't too loud or too soft, and that your part is being heard. So just real creative things. We also had some faculty members request, we have a AI lab, and they needed some 3D printers. And so the foundation provided some funding for things like that. So I mentioned earlier, Ruth Keenan was our executive director of the foundation. She was here for 11 years and did a whole lot to build the foundation and do some fundraising. She retired in August. She and her husband, Gordy, are sailors, and they quite literally sailed off into the sunset. They're out sailing the world right now. So we've got a lot of changes as I've come on. As I mentioned, I worked at Texas A&M and before that, and did advancement work there, and fundraising that I learned how to do there was very different from what we were doing here. In the past, the foundation did all of their fundraising through events. Kind of best practices in higher education are that your events sort of supplement what you're doing in other places. So I came on as the executive director. We have hired what we call a director of development. Her name is Christy Troxel. And so we're going to be doing some things a little bit different. So we're doing a lot right now to set up policies and procedures and develop standard operating procedures and document what we're doing. There's a whole lot that we're doing there. We fortunately so the foundation does hold a biannual gala. So in the even numbered years, We typically in May, we will hold a gala. And it was just interesting that this year, as we were moving into this year, we had our board members who said, you know what, we don't want a brick and mortar event. We want to do more of a virtual gala. And we all just went, okay. And so we had gone through a whole lot, done a lot of research, and we had set up a virtual gala, and it opened. We kicked it off. We started that campaign in January of 2020. And then March of 2020, here came COVID. And we just thought, wow, how cool is that we were already doing a virtual gala in the midst of everything else we went through. So as you can guess, right now I've kind of talked about the Promise program, and that's a very capital intense program. Can't use any kind of taxpayer dollars, state appropriations. You can't do that. And so it is all truly with that Promise program. Every bit of it has to be, it's a last dollar in. So we use Pell first for those who qualify for Pell. And then we do have other scholarships if Promise students qualify for those scholarships. But then we are raising money for Promise. And as you can imagine, as I mentioned, the cohorts, that is really what our focus is right now as a foundation, is really building that fund up so that we can sustain it. And so, so that's kind of what we're doing. We are going to hold a gala in May 2022. Like I said, every couple of years, it will be kind of the culmination of our 60th anniversary. It will be our Center for Petrochemical Energy and Technology. And so we're working on the host committee right now and building things up. And if anyone has interest in serving on that host committee, we'd love to talk with you and have you lend your name and your passion to that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us, Teri. We really don't have time to talk about the legislative session, but
sorry.
No. And I'm trying to. I was kind of going off script, but we do have two great representatives. Representative Dennis Paul and Dr. Greg Bonin, who's a little bit further south, and Larry Taylor. Give me your 2-sentence. How are you feeling about this session and the impact it will have on the community colleges throughout the state?
So what we're hearing so far from Dr. Bonin and Senator Taylor, who really are the folks focused on education. Representative Paul has been very supportive of us, given us advice as well. But really, as chair of appropriations, Dr. Bonin kind of holds the purse strings, and Senator Taylor was the chair of Article 3, which is the education and higher education. It didn't turn out exactly like we wanted, but they really went above and beyond. As you can imagine, every community college is significantly, well, not every, there's a lot of community colleges that are down in enrollment, just the whole COVID thing. And so one of our number one request was some kind of hold harmless, and I'm very fortunate that they were willing to do that, hold harmless. San Jacinto College wasn't below that threshold, so we won't benefit from it, but it was very gracious of them to consider that request and to do that. I know it's been a tough year for our statewide financing as well. So, and there's a lot of different competing priorities that they have to work their way through. But I think right now we wish we were in a better place, but at the same time, we have to just say thank you. Thank you for hearing our request and for honoring that.
Thank you. I apologize for putting you on the spot, but I know it has been a tough session, and I know you're very much involved in that. Teri, thank you so much for being with us today. I can't say enough about the passion you have for San Jacinto College, and I love what you do, and I just appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
All right. Okay, everyone. I hope you will join us for the next Education Connection on June the 10th. It will be live on Facebook. And if you want to hear more, hear Teri's story again, this is live on the Clear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce website. Thank you all for being here. Again, thank you, Teri.
Thank you.
Thanks.